And for that reason, in terms of just how I approach the task of ethics, I tend to not be as focused in my research on issues of social ethics or the sorts of issues we're talking about today, but more about that in a second. I'm also really passionate about the area of intra-Christian theology, which is to say, I find it fascinating to learn from our brothers and sisters from other branches of the family tree, so to speak, right? I love listening to the wisdom of the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church and the various branches of the Protestant Church. It's, in my opinion, getting that conversation going and listening to the best voices from across the family is the best way to do theology. And so that's part of what informs the way that I'll approach the conversation in here. The other thing is this. I think there's a deep connection between the exploration of theology, the doing of theology, and what we might call Christian spirituality. But spirituality is an awfully fuzzy term, isn't it? It could just mean light some candles and hum something. But this Christian spirituality, what is it about? It's about the practices that shape our life. It's about the practices that we engage in to make our faith active and alive, and not just an idea, but a living reality. And so that is something I care about. And why do I say all that? Because there's this issue. What exactly I bring to this conversation? I do not come to you today talking about Martin Luther King's legacy or the letter from the Birmingham jail as an expert in the civil rights movement or as an expert in race relations or those sorts of matters, although these are things I care about deeply. The reason I did accept gladly the invitation from David when he suggested this theme, however, is precisely this. The issue of race puts its finger on an issue where practice and faith and social realities all collide in some pretty profound ways. So even though I don't necessarily approach the task from a position of thinking about issues of politics or issues of social structures and things, I do care deeply about what all of this has to do with our walk with Jesus. Yeah? So those are the sorts of things I'd like us to consider together this morning. So here's a question I have for you. Where were you in the middle of all of these sorts of events, the events that surround that penning of the letter from the Birmingham jail? Here's a brief little newsreel that I think might be helpful. Let's hope the tech behaves itself.
The continuation of segregation was a solemn promise.
Can you hear?
Martin Luther King, it was a scourge now to overcome. In the city of Birmingham, the Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, whose church and home had been bombed because of his activism, began a campaign to integrate the downtown shopping district. King joined him in March of 1963. They both expected an extreme response from Public Safety Commissioner, segregationist Eugene Bull Connor.
What was the fortune of the civil rights movement were its enemies? Where did you find a better enemy than Bull Connor or Martin King?
King submitted to arrest on April 12th, Good Friday, to draw maximum press coverage. Attorney General Robert Kennedy had asked King to avoid confrontations with police, wanting to pursue civil rights gains through the courts, not the streets.
Dr. King said, Mr. Attorney General, I can best serve this country and my people by focusing on the evils of segregation. He said it's a corruption of the society, it's a corruption of the soul.
Sitting in his jail cell in Birmingham, King wrote about that corruption. He responded to an open letter that appeared in the Birmingham News that same day. It was titled, A Call for Unity, and was signed by 8 white clergymen. Their appeal made reference to outside leadership, calling the protests unwise and untimely. King wrote in the margins of that newspaper, I am in Birmingham because injustice is here. He went on, Birmingham is probably the most thoroughly segregated city in the United States. Its ugly record of brutality is widely known. Its sentiments King expressed in the letter had already made an impact on students who had committed themselves to civil rights activism throughout the Deep South.
We were greatly influenced by Martin Luther King Jr. and the philosophy and the discipline of nonviolence. But we didn't like the tempo of change. We wanted to speed it up.
On May 3rd, students re-energized the campaign. Some were in high school, others were even younger. The Birmingham campaign became known as the Children's Crusade.
It was easy for a black student like myself in the South to say, well, if they can do it in Little Rock, they can do it in Montgomery. If they can stand up, we can stand up too.
When Bull Connor ordered the police to disperse the protesters with dogs, it was clear this was a real battle, a violent confrontation. Firemen were ordered to use the full force of their hoses on the demonstrators. The local newspapers supported Bull Connor's response, blaming the chaos on the demonstrators.
I really believe he thought somehow in some way that he was chaos. But he didn't understand the philosophy and the discipline of nonviolence. He didn't understand the spirit of the movement.
Television and newspaper reports captured the brutality in Birmingham and showed it to the whole nation. Outside the region, it was shocking. It was horrifying. It was unacceptable.
It brought the civil rights movement into England's homes, with many American families watching the 6 o'clock news in such a way that it simply just couldn't be ignored.
In just a week, the demonstrators' nonviolent response created a public outcry that Birmingham could not dismiss. On May 10th, symbols of segregation, like separate water fountains, became relics as city leaders signed the Birmingham Truce. In addition, a plan was agreed upon to desegregate lunch counters. This was the kind of meaningful negotiation Martin Luther King had called for in his letter. We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I have yet to engage in a direct action campaign that was well timed in view of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I've heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see, with one of our distinguished jurists, that justice too long delayed is justice denied. These words have inspired citizens young and old to take direct action in the streets of Birmingham. The letter was soon published in newspapers and magazines, and its power was undeniable. King had gone to Birmingham to fight injustice. In the end, his most powerful weapon was the letter he wrote from the confines of a jail cell.
Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. 1963 is when the letter was written, when those events unfolded, when the Birmingham campaign took place. So I'd like you to take up, just for a minute or two around your tables, this question. How did you perceive these events when they took place? What was your read of the situation at the time? And then the second question, has your perception of these events shifted at all over the years since then? Discuss amongst yourselves.
I was raised in the South. I was very much against it.
I was in 19 graduate from high
But
school.
I have changed.
I have too. In 1964, I mean, I thought that what was going on in Birmingham with the blacks was atrocious. And I fully supported everything, all the actions of the police and all the people took. But I grew up in North Carolina. And actually, Rocky Mountain.
Okay, so what do you mean?
well, I was totally understood what was going on.
Well,
Moving forward